now, it's time for World of Prophecy with your host, former professor at the University of Texas at Austin, career United States Air Force officer, and best-selling author, Texe Mars.
Hello, friends. This is Texe Mars, and welcome to another edition of World of Prophecy. You know, we have the title World of Prophecy because we are heard around the world globally on WWCR International Shortwave Radio. And I appreciate the correspondence that we received, the personal letters, and I know many of you are getting a great blessing from this radio program. We appreciate your support. I want to also let my good friends out there in the radio world know that my new book, Big Sister is Watching You, the true story of Hillary Clinton and the feminazis who are now running the President of the United States as well as this nation, is doing very, very well. God is blessing the sales of that book. And it's, I suppose it could turn out to be one of the biggest selling books that I've had, at least from early indications. And of course, a book doesn't have to be a bestseller to do what God wants it to do in the world. It only has to be read possibly by one or two people whom God wants in their hands. But nevertheless, we see that Big Sister is Watching You is doing very well, and already we've distributed I don't know how many tens of thousands of copies. It's just getting really out now into bookstores and among distributors. Some of the other Christian ministries and patriotic organizations are offering the book. If you have not got your copy of Big Sister is Watching You, be sure to send your love gift of $12 plus $2 postage to Texe Mars or to World of Prophecy, 1708 Patterson Road, Austin, Texas, 78733, and that's here in the continental United States of America. And you can call us always toll-free, 1-800-234-9673. Now, as you know, we've been having some tremendous interviews with folks over the last few weeks. But tonight's interview, I'll tell you, I'm excited about it myself. This man is a good friend of mine. He's a true American patriot, a Christian. He's written a bestseller book, too. It's a book I have. I've read it. And I'll tell you, it's a thick book. But don't let the size deter you because there's a lot of fascinating information in it. The title of the book is Behold a Pale Horse. I want to repeat that. Behold a pale horse. Well, I suggest to you that has something to do with Bible prophecy, and we're going to ask the author of the book exactly what the meaning is of that very cryptic title of his book. He's a former U.S. Naval Intelligence officer. He has an international shortwave radio program of his own, and I'm going to have him tell you how you can listen to his shortwave radio program too. He has many fascinating programs on it, and I think you'll be blessed by it as well. His name, William Cooper, and I just call him Bill. Bill, welcome to World of Prophecy.
Thank you, Tex. It's a pleasure to be with you.
You know this book, Behold a Pale Horse. Tell us a little bit about that. Why, first of all, did you title the book by that very mysterious title, and then why did you write this book?
Well, it's a long story, and it began years ago when I was a young man in the United States Navy attached to the Office of Naval Intelligence, and at one point was a member of the briefing team of Admiral Bernard Clary, who at that time was the Commander-in-Chief of the United States Pacific Fleet. And during my stint at that duty station, I got to see a lot of top-secret, special, categorized documents and messages and information that most people would never dream of, much less never see in their life. And what it told me was that the public, the American public, are rarely, if ever, told the truth. That the National Security Act of 1947 was really created to empower the United Nations Treaty and the UN Participation Act and hasten the dissolution of sovereign nation states and bring about a one-world totalitarian socialist government. That's why the Disarmament Agency was created during that period of time also. And when I began to read these things and understand what it was that I was reading, I mean, I was really young at that time and was totally unprepared for that. I'd been reared in a military family. My father was an Air Force colonel, a command pilot. And I just believed so much in this nation and so much in our form of government that I was literally torn asunder by this. It was like someone had ripped my soul out of my body, and everything that I had ever learned or known in my life was just, all of a sudden I was confronted with the fact that it just was not so. And I studied for many years. I left the Navy. I had intended to stay in the service and retire. I left the Navy because I could no longer be a part of this deception. And I spent the next many years trying to, well, first I tried to reveal this information and was severely attacked and injured. And I spent the next 16 or so years doing private research on my own to verify and find out what was going on. And literally, what I discovered was going on was the end of the world as we know it. And the beginning of what these people are bringing it about called the New Age, and the new human that is going to populate this New Age is what they call the sixth root race. And those who cannot evolve into this sixth root race are going to be totally and completely eliminated. And that drove me back to my Bible, and I began to read and began to understand much more than I ever had before. And I decided to write this book as a warning to those people who are special to God. And the verse from the Bible that fit what was happening at this point, from what I discovered in naval intelligence and from what I've discovered from studying the world situation and what is coming, was chapter 6, verse 8 of the book of Revelation of the King James Version of the Holy Bible. And it goes like this. And I looked, and behold, a pale horse. And his name that sat upon him was Death, and hell followed with him. And power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth, to kill with sword, and with hunger, and with the beasts of the earth. And the purpose of this book is to warn those people who will listen that this is exactly what is coming in the very near future, and that they had better prepare now so that there will be a remnant of God's children to carry on from the point where it begins to fall apart.
Well, Bill, we're going to be discussing this book, Behold a Pale Horse, during this program. Now, friends, I want to let you know we will be, a couple of times during the program, letting you know how you can get your own copy of Behold a Pale Horse. It's quite a book. It's a large format. How many pages long is the book, Bill?
It's over 500 pages. It's about right at 500 pages, I guess. And I've been told by experts that it's the most well-documented book containing the most suppressed information that's ever been published in history up to this point.
Over 500 pages.
I've even documented in here the connection of United States Army intelligence with the Satanic Church, and explained a lot of things that people before have not been able to understand, either why it was happening or who was bringing it about. And it helps people to pinpoint who the enemy really is and where they're coming from and what they believe.
You know, Bill, a lot of the things you're saying, if a person's listening to this program for the first time, they're probably really shocked and bewildered. And yet what you just said there about the Satanic Church and the connection with the U.S. Army, we know that LaVey was at Presidio, the military installation there, and stationed, that it has a cult connection. And now we have Mikhail Gorbachev, funded by the Rockefeller Foundation and other groups. And there he is. Our U.S. government has given him basically this huge facility and even refurbished it and such for the Gorbachev Foundation.
That's correct, and that was before the law allowed it to be occupied by anything other than the military.
So there certainly is a connection here. On, you know, a lot of people ask the question about what has been called the Illuminati. And, of course, there are many other names for it. And I know this seems very basic, but for the folks out there that might have just tuned in, is there an Illuminati? Are they the ones doing these things that you've exposed in your well-documented book, Beyond the Pale Horse? What about the Illuminati? Is that the group we're talking about?
Well, the Illuminati very simply means those who are illumined. And those who are illumined are all of those who belong to the secret societies whose membership organization is always in the structure of a pyramid with a whole bunch of slathering idiots at the bottom thirsting after a secret that they'll probably never know, and a very few at the top who really know what the secrets ultimately are, and controlling this huge population that exists below them in these secret societies. And of course, as they grow up to the degrees of initiation, they take countless blood oaths, so that by the time they reach the top, they've taken 60 or more of these oaths. And they're so locked into it that even if they wanted to rebel at that point, it would be almost impossible for them to do so unless they had some tremendous outside spiritual help and inner strength. This is nothing more, Tex, in my research, I have discovered that this is nothing more than the ancient religion of Babylon brought forth to the modern day, and it's been perpetuated in secret for the millennium, all the way from that ancient time right up to the present day. And their purpose is to restore the ancient gods to the religions of the world, to eliminate all existing religions, all existing nation-states, save theirs, and shackle what they call the mob, which is all of us, and bring them under our total and final and complete control. The basic philosophy that underlies this religion is simply this, and to them this is a metaphor, nothing else. While it may mean an awful lot to you and to me and to many other people out there, to them it is a metaphor. And basically what they believe is that man was held prisoner in the Garden of Eden by an unjust, vindictive, terrible, jealous God named Jehovah or Adonai, and that man was set free from the bonds or the chains of ignorance by Lucifer through his agent Satan with the gift of intellect or primordial knowing. That man is in a state of becoming, and if man learns to do good works, so to speak, what they call good works, that man himself will elevate to the state of apotheosis and will himself become God. And you see this prevalent throughout the New Age movement. You see it prevalent throughout the lodges of Freemasonry, the ancient order of the Rose and Cross, or Rosicrucis. You see it in the Knights of Malta, the Knights Templar. You see it in the Mormon Church. You see it in all of these very, very powerful groups who hold great positions of authority in our government, our military, and even in all the local small towns and great cities out there. And I have to say, at this moment, they are very firmly in charge, and they are propelling us toward their dream of the New Age.
You know, you mentioned the Mormon Church, and you and I would know then that Joseph Smith was a Mason, and many of the rituals of the Mormon Church are based on Freemasonry. The Jehovah's Witnesses also, you know, Russell was
That's correct.
was a Mason, and it was based on that. Some say that Jehovah's Witnesses are still controlled, very much so, by Freemasons. There's a group called Americans United for Separation of Church and State. They have a number of Seventh-day Adventist bigwigs. Now, there's some good Seventh-day Adventist groups out there that are trying to fight this New Age monster within their own ranks, but evidently even that group, connected with Freemasonry, is also controlled by these folks. You know, remember when people like Gary Allen wrote None Dare Call It a Conspiracy, and there have been the John Birch Society and the others. All of these folks would talk about political and economic. I want to commend you, Bill. I think you've got more insight and discernment than most of these people and groups. I mean, I'm not saying they haven't done good things to awaken the United States and patriots, but the fact is, you have uncovered more than just political and economic skullduggery. You talk about something very basic to the core of human nature, which is the spiritual. That there is a religious element, almost, let's just say, a religion of the Illuminati. It's very interesting. Why do you think that perhaps some of the, this has not been picked up on. Why are you one of the pioneers in this? And yet you noted just a moment ago that it really harkens all the way back. It's the ancient Babylon religion. Why is it that it has taken all this time, and a man named William Cooper, your radio program and your book, Behold the Pale Horse, why haven't these other people seen these things?
Well, I think it's part accident and just part hard work. During my youth, I was asked by a friend of mine if I would come and join the club that he belonged to, called the Demolay. And I said that I would, and I went through this initiation, which I didn't understand anything that happened that night. And I went for 2 more meetings after that. And my father was transferred to Japan. And I never went to another meeting, never knew anybody else who belonged. And so it just disappeared from my life. And I'm very lucky, knowing what I know now, that it did, because I could have become one of them very easily. But when I filled out my security clearance papers in the United States Navy, they give you these sheets that list hundreds of organizations, and you have to check any organization that you used to belong to, or you don't get your security clearance. And if they find out you left something out that you did belong to, that's a very serious violation. So I looked all over for Demolay. I couldn't find it, but I knew that Demolay was the boys' organization for Freemasonry, so I checked Freemasonry. And I found myself in the Office of Naval Intelligence and discovered that there are no intelligence people in the United States Navy who are not Freemasons, Knights, the Templars, or Rosencross, or Knights of Malta. When I discovered this, along with everything else I discovered, I thought it was very strange, but I didn't attach anything to it until later in my life, when I began to really do some serious research into the heart and core of this. And I sat down one day and I said, this is absolutely impossible. No conspiracy can exist because it could not have been kept so secret for so long. So whatever is happening has to be happening by accident, unless it's some kind of a religion that I don't know about. So I began to look into the various religions, and lo and behold, I found there is a religion that I was not aware of, and it's the religion that I've already described. What keeps it secret are these tremendous layers of degrees of initiation. Nobody really knows anything until they get to the top. And along the way, they take so many oaths, that, and they're all blood oaths, that they agree to be murdered ritually if they reveal any of the secrets. And this is how they've been able to keep this secret, through indoctrination of these men and women throughout their life, through belonging to these secret organizations, going up to the degrees of initiation, to where eventually some of them learn what it's really all about and learn to control the others below them. And that's the way they've kept it secret. And in these oaths, they have to swear to help their brothers in the order, come to their aid at any time, give them preference in any kind of interview or business dealings or what have you. And so they've been able to infiltrate people into key positions in government, in the military, in religious organizations, churches, Protestant churches, the Catholic Church, in city government, in state government. And of course, when they get in these positions and openings become available below them, they are filled with their brother lodge members. And this is how they have slowly but surely taken over this country and other countries and are eating us away from within. The enemy is not without. The enemy is within. In fact, the enemy is within each and every man, if you understand that.
Well, I have an article here from the New Age. And as you know, that's from the Supreme Council 33rd Degree Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. Until very recently, they changed the name now to Scottish Rite Journal. I guess folks like Bill Cooper and Tex Mars were exposing the New Age, and they said we better change the name of our publication.
It became very embarrassing to them, as a matter of fact.
Yes. Way back in September 1950, an article entitled God's Plan in America. And it states here that God's plan, this is right out of the New Age magazine of the largest Masonic group in America. It says, Bill, God's plan is dedicated to the unification of all races, religions, and creeds. It says this plan is dedicated also to the new order of things. It is to make all things new, a new nation, a new race, a new civilization, and a new religion, a non-sectarian religion that has already been recognized and called a religion of the great light. One of the things that, the Masons use is this term non-sectarian. What does that mean?
Well, non-sectarian means that there is no dogma. There is no one who will be turned away from their lodge if you knock on the door and say you are looking for the light or the illumination. To join, you must believe in a deity. But your deity doesn't have to have any name, nor do they ask you the name of your deity. And as you are slowly indoctrinated into their philosophy and go up through the degrees of initiation and you learn more and more of the occult teachings, your deity, when you first joined, may have been Jehovah or Adonai, or it may have been Allah. It doesn't make any difference. By the time you reach a certain point, your deity has been transformed in your mind very subtly by these occult practices and has become Lucifer.
So the great light then is Lucifer.
Pardon?
The great light then is Lucifer.
That is correct.
It says here, the guiding hand of providence has chosen the Nordic people to bring in and unfold a new order of the world. And Bill, it goes on in this article. Now again, this is an article by C. William Smith, God's Plan in America, the New Age magazine, September 1950. It says that, and it's going along with something you said a little earlier in the program that I thought was very, very significant. It says the Nordics are the highest branch of the fifth Aryan civilization. It says, and the American race will be the sixth Aryan civilization. This new and great civilization is like an American beauty rosebud, ready to open and send its wonderful fragrance to all the world. The Aryan race, you talked about the sixth race. Well, a lot of people out there said, now wait just a minute. William Cooper, that he couldn't be serious, but here is the Freemasons' own top publication, as far back as 1950. We're talking about 44 years ago, confirming what you said earlier here on World of Prophecy. The Aryans, but didn't Adolf Hitler talk about the Aryan race?
That's right, and he talked about the new super race, or the new root race. It's the same thing. It's the same old promise. He was brought to power by the occult lodges in Germany, the Thule Society, the Germanen Order, the Teutonic Knights were the power behind Adolf Hitler. They profess to be bringing all the races together. The truth is, if you're not a white, Aryan, Anglo-Saxon, you're dead in the New World Order. You will be a slave or just summarily executed. They make no secret of this. If you don't believe that, go down to a Masonic lodge and see if you can find any black people in there.
Mm-hmm. So the unification of all races, you think they basically mean make them all one slave race? Is that what you...
Yeah, well, they are the modern equivalent of National Socialism, the Nazi Party.
Well, of course, some people now are beginning to wake up to the fact that maybe Bill Clinton is and Hillary could have some Nazi fascist intentions. Do you think that's possible?
Without any doubt.
Have you found the connection of Bill Clinton with this group of men that you're exposing?
Oh yes. There was a man in England by the name of Cecil Rhodes. Now, Cecil Rhodes is the man that Rhodesia is named after, and he is the man who established the diamond mines in South Africa, and for so many years enslaved the South African people. And he wrote one will where he wanted to establish a secret society and leave all his money to that secret society to bring about a one-world government, which would be eventually changed his will 2 or 3 times. What he ultimately did was left his money to the Rothschild family. The Rothschild family established a society called the Round Table Group, which became in England the Royal Institute of International Affairs, which is also known as Chatham House, which is the private club for British intelligence, MI6 and MI5. The Royal Institute of International Affairs established a small round table group in New York City, which for many years just met on Saturday nights in a hotel and had dinner together and discussed things. And then, I believe it was in 1919, they came together formally and formed the Council on Foreign Relations in the United States, which then began to form small businessmen's roundtable groups in cities throughout the United States. And our State Department, for, over 50 years, has recruited their bureaucrats, their personnel, their ambassadors, all of the people who run the State Department have come directly from the Council on Foreign Relations. In 1972, because the nation was so upset with the Vietnam War, and the policy makers who created the Vietnam War had come from the Council on Foreign Relations, they decided to create a sister group to take some of the heat off of them, and they created what's known today as the Trilateral Commission, which is an organization, publicly they state that they're devoted to bringing together in open trade the Far East, Europe, and North America. And, of course, in their literature, in their writings, they make no secret of the fact that their real goal is the destruction of the sovereignty of all nations and the formation of a one-world government. And that's the Council on Foreign Relations and the Trilateral Commission. Anyone can write to them and get their literature.
Well, Allen Dulles was a member of the CFR and then the CIA, and he was a Skull and Bonesman, and then he was later on the Warren Commission. The Skull and Bones Society, the Bilderbergers, the CFR, the Trilateral Commission, the groups that you're talking about, the Rosicrucians, Freemasonry, are they really, are we talking about, do they all come together at some intersection?
At the top, they are all exactly the same organization. At the bottom, they appear to be different, and at times, and on certain issues, apparently appear to oppose each other. And they use this very, very effectively. It is the old Hegelian dialectic of political conflict resolutions, where they want a solution, they want something to happen. So they look around and they create a problem, the solution to which is what they wanted to happen in the first place. They create this tremendous conflict between two opposing forces, which creates a synthesis which results in the solution that they wanted. And the result in the public's mind is that all this came about by accident, or else it came about because the public needed it or wanted it as the solution to some problem. For instance, one of these people who was trying to prove that Freemasonry could have no part in any plot to control the world used as an example Mexico. And the two parties in Mexico that are always the strongest parties vying against each other for public office in Mexico, one party is controlled by the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, the other by the York Rite. So he's using this. He's saying, you see, they're fighting against each other for power in Mexico. Therefore, they could not possibly be in control. It just depends upon which one wins the election. Well, the truth is, that's just the biggest bunch of BS that's ever gone down the pike, because the truth is, no matter who wins the election, Freemasons won.
Well, Bill, I'll tell you what, we're going to have to go for a break now. When we come back, I want to see what you have to say about the Democrats and the Republicans right here in America. Do we possibly have the same situation? And friends, get you out a pencil and a pen and some paper. We're going to tell you how to get a copy of Behold the Pale Horse. We're going to be discussing UFOs and a lot more on the other side of this announcement. So stay with us. I'm Tex Mars. This is World of Prophecy. My special guest, William Cooper.
It's been called America's most shocking and revealing newsletter. It's also the most truthful and the most informative. I'm talking about Tex Mars' exciting newsletter, Flashpoint. Don't look for this publication at your local bookstore. You won't find this kind of startling information on the CBS, ABC, or NBC News either. Flashpoint is uncut and uncensored. In its pages, you'll discover the names of famous leaders who clandestinely practice witchcraft and New Age religion. You'll find out how close America is to a devastating financial crash and economic holocaust, and you'll be amazed at the revelations of sordid misconduct by public officials who are unmasked. Flashpoint. It's the most effective tool in the world today to keep you up to date on the global conspiracy and on Bible prophecy. Now here's the best news of all. Tex, Mars, and World of Prophecy want to give you a 6-month free subscription to this outstanding newsletter at no charge to you. That's right, a 6-month subscription to Flashpoint. America and the planet's most valuable newsletter can be yours absolutely free. Simply call toll-free 1-800-234-9673 to receive your free subscription to Flashpoint. Again, that number is 1-800-234-9673. Or write to World of Prophecy, 1708 Patterson Road, Austin, Texas, 78733. Flashpoint. It contains facts and information that will be priceless to you, and it's free.
Hello, friends. This is Tex Mars. Welcome back to World of Prophecy. My special guest tonight is the author of Behold a Pale Horse. His name, William Cooper, former U.S. Naval Intelligence officer and a man who knows more than, goodness, I don't know of anybody else that knows any more than he does about the world conspiracy, about secret societies, and really very crucial things you need to know. Bill, I'd like for folks to know how to get a copy of your book, Behold a Pale Horse. Maybe you can let folks know how they can, how much does it cost, where can they send their check or money order or whatever to. Would you please let people know about that?
Sure, and if you're not interested in purchasing the book, just send us a self-addressed stamp, number 10 size business envelope, and we'll send you a whole packet of information that you might want to have. But if you're interested in the book, it's $30, and I'm not self-published. The publisher sets that price, and to tell you the truth, the publisher raised the price by $5 within the last year, and I don't really know the reason for that, but the book is worth it, and it's the only book in the world that I know of that has a personal guarantee with it. If you get this book and you don't believe that it has information in it that's going to help you, you send it immediately right back to us, and I'll personally refund your money.
You can't beat that.
It's $30 postpaid, and you can send it to William Cooper, Post Office Box 1420, Sholow, spelled SHOWLOW, Arizona 85901. That's P.O. Box 1420, Sholow, spelled just like it sounds, Arizona 85901. If you'd like to call and talk to somebody, you can call our research center at 602-333-5174 anytime during the day. That's 602-333-5174. And if you'd like to listen to my program, The Hour of the Time, it's on Monday through Friday nights at 11 p.m. Central Standard Time on WWCR. The frequency is 5.810 megahertz, 5.810 megahertz. And you can also get us on satellite on SpaceNet 3, channel 21, 5.8 audio, and that's wideband. That's SpaceNet 3, channel 21, 5.8 audio, wideband.
Okay, and friends, just to repeat what Bill Cooper is saying, his book, Behold the Pale Horse, $30, that includes postage and handling, and it's just send that check or money order to P.O. Box 1420, and the town or city is Show Low. Very interesting name there, Bill. Show Low, Arizona, SHOWLOW, Arizona. The zip code 85901. And if you just want information about his organization and his mission in life, so to speak, what he's doing, he's been talking about that on this program, just send a number 10 envelope to that same address, and you'll get back a packet of information. It'll probably tell you about this book, and then you can order it at that time. But I think the book is very worthwhile. Much information, some original documents, formerly classified secret and top secret. I have a copy of the book myself. I do recommend it. So, friends, if you want to know more about the things that the media are not going to tell you about because they're controlled by these same folks, then you need a book such as Behold a Pale Horse. Bill, we were talking just recently, it wasn't on the radio, but you were telling me about a project that you had because you were so really disgusted with the media, talking about the media, and you said that you wanted to attempt to have a national program to buy up some media so that Christians and American patriots could get their version of the truth out. I mean, I said version, hey, the truth out. Tell us a little bit about your plans in that area.
Well, so many people are so disgusted with what they're seeing on television and hearing on the radio and what's printed in the newspapers, and so many lies are thrown at us daily. And it's all got this liberal, socialist, Marxist slant to it that's criminal. And nothing is being done about this. So many people come to me and say, Bill, what can we do? I mean, it's all stacked against us. Nobody's going to believe us. They ignore us. They don't even know we exist because the media won't even print our meetings or anything. So I sat down and realized all of a sudden that Americans don't understand how our system works. Everything in America is for sale, and I mean everything. And the media is publicly held corporations, which means they have stock. What we have done is target one company, Gannett Company Incorporated, for a takeover by the citizens of America. And what we're asking people to do is buy initially 5 or 10 shares of GCI. That's the New York Stock Exchange symbol for Gannett Company Incorporated. Go down to your local broker, buy 5 or 10 shares initially, as much as you could possibly afford, make out a power of attorney granting me the rights to vote your stock at stockholder meetings. This gives us power. In other words, the more shares we own, the more power we have, because the shareholders are the owners of the company. Once we gain ownership, our proxy votes of 51% of the voting stock, and it's all voting stock, we literally own the company and can dictate what that company does. And that's exactly what we intend to do. We intend to get back to the principles and ideals upon which this country was based. We want to get back to objective journalism and not this liberal socialist slant that everything has on it, where reporters go out and do what they're supposed to do, report the facts and let the reader make up their own mind about what those facts mean, and so on and so forth. Gannett owns over 150 newspapers in this country, including USA Today. They own 15 television stations and just bought 4 or 5 more, and 17 AM and FM radio stations, and they're the largest owner of outdoor billboard advertising space in the country. So if we can do this and set an example to other citizens in this country, we could end up with a powerful groundswell movement. We could literally buy the media and take back this country. It is what the media gives to the people that causes them to think and do the things that they think and do today, and not vice versa. Media is not reflecting society as we know it. It is creating the society of the future, and we all know that the society they're creating is not the one that we want. So I would ask that all of you please help, and if you want more information before you go buy stock, send us that number 10 self-addressed stamped envelope, and we'll send it to you. If you want to get right on board real quick, go right down and buy your stock and make out your program so that you continue to buy stock every month or every 2 months, 1 or 2 shares, whatever you can afford, and let's take this country back.
Of course, what you're suggesting here is sort of fascinating because the owner of the stock still has the stock. They still get the dividend or whatever, and,
That's right.
And if the stock grows, it's theirs. So they're not losing anything financially.
That's right.
And if you only own 5 or 10 or 50 or even a couple of hundred shares of Gannett, GCI on the stock exchange is their symbol, then what you're saying, they give you, William Cooper, the proxy to exercise their vote at stock meetings, but they still have the stock and all. So you're not asking for any money. No. You're really asking for the paper rights to bring a more unbiased view. As we were talking, it hit me that many American corporations are actually controlled by just 3 or 4% because stock is so dispersed that if you gain just a small percentage of the total outstanding shares of a company, you can basically control that company.
Sometimes that's true. We believe that there are a lot of stockholders who already own stock in that company who, once they have received communication from us and understand what we're doing, will probably give us their proxies right off the bat. So already, let me tell you some good news. Just before I went to San Francisco, which was last weekend, to speak at the Dunphy Hotel, we counted up the proxies that we had already had, and we only began this program a little over 2 weeks ago, about 3 weeks ago, I guess. We already had 173,000 proxy votes assigned to us.
Goodness.
Means that we have Americans out there who own 173,000 shares of Gannett Company Incorporated who didn't own it before.
That's going to make a big impact. People will sit up and take some notice. You can go out and demonstrate on the streets, and that can be powerful, but, the pen is mightier than the sword. Well, I'll tell you what, let's I really appreciate your mentioning that. I think it's an important program. But I want to get back now to your book, Beyond the Pale Horse. And one of the things I told the folks that we would discuss, you were mentioning the fact that there are 2 political parties in Mexico. One is basically controlled by the York Rite of Freemasonry, the other by the Scottish Rite, and yet because they're Masonry and because they're controlled both of those groups behind the scenes, there's really only one political party in Mexico. And I was asking the question about our venerable Democrats and Republicans here in the United States, Bill.
Well, the same situation exists here. You'll find that the higher echelons of both parties are members of the Council on Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission, and in most instances are also Freemasons, member of the Rosencross, Knights Templar, or Knights of Malta. So, it's exactly the same situation. We don't get to select the candidates. And the problem with elections in this country is we think that we're voting for the best man. The truth is, whoever we elect is their man. They select the candidates, and the candidates are presented to us as a choice. The truth is, it doesn't make any difference which choice we take. So many people were so enamored with Ronald Reagan, but look what he did. Ronald Reagan bankrupted the country and made it possible for socialism to become a reality in the Clinton administration.
Yeah, he really did. And, if folks doubt what you're saying, just look at Robert Dole. He's a 33rd degree Freemason.
That's right.
No wonder he would back Clinton on the NAFTA plan and really do nothing to stop the health care plan. Hey, these guys are in the same camp, aren't they?
They certainly are. And you might wonder about Rush Limbaugh, who's also backing NAFTA. Why is he backing NAFTA? Very simple. He's also in the same camp. It doesn't sound like he is, but you notice that Rush never gets to the meat of anything, and he never identifies an enemy. He poo-poos the conspiracy. He tells everybody everything's okay if we can just get Clinton out of the White House.
Yeah, if we just get a Republican in, everything is going to work out just great, even though we had Reagan and Bush, and all they gave us was the New World Order. We have another installment, maybe the final installment, in fact, in Mr. Clinton. Well, UFOs. Boy, I tell you, I get a lot of mail on this.
I bet you do.
And there are many theories of UFOs, of course, but in your book, you talk about some possible government, let's just call it a cover-up, or even a colossal conspiracy. I guess the real question is Bill, to start off with, what are these darn things? What are UFOs?
Well, I didn't know anything about UFOs at all in my whole life until I saw one from the deck of a submarine as we were transiting on the surface between the Pearl Harbor submarine base and the Portland, Seattle area. And I saw a huge disc-shaped craft actually come out of the ocean, tumble on its axis, and go into the clouds. And I was the only one who saw it initially. But eventually there were 5 of us standing up there watching these things go in and out of the water repeatedly for about 10 minutes, which is a long time to observe something like this. And I was kept on board, even though I didn't have the duty. I was kept on board along with everyone else who had witnessed this, and we were told, literally, that we were never to talk about this at all. In fact, I don't know what happened to the others when they were in the captain's stateroom with this naval intelligence officer, and this was before I was attached to naval intelligence. I don't know what happened to the others, but I was browbeat and threatened until I said that I hadn't seen anything. And when I said that I hadn't seen anything, everybody was just ecstatic. They loved that, and they had me sign all these security oaths and read all these things that said I'd go to jail for the rest of my life and forfeit everything that I've ever had and disappear from the whole, down into some bottomless pit if I ever spoke about what it was that I had not seen. So I knew at that point that I'd seen something that was so significant, so important, that the United States Navy would do anything to keep it quiet. Later, when I was attached to the Office of Naval Intelligence, I began to see top-secret documents concerning UFO report sightings by naval vessels and naval shore installations and naval pilots and all kinds of things that told me that whatever UFOs are, the United States Navy and the United States government know exactly what they are and are keeping it quiet. I saw documents that purported that they were extraterrestrial in origin, which I've come to doubt now. I think that many of us who saw this information were given disinformation mixed with truth in order so that we would never be able to go out and tell the public the real truth of it. And I've really been so angry with being used in that manner. But there is no doubt the government knows their origin. They know what they're up to. They know everything about them, and they don't want anybody else to know. And there's several possibilities, and there are 2 main ones. One is that it's extraterrestrial in origin. The other one is that there are no extraterrestrial visitors at all, but this could be the greatest hoax in the history of mankind in order to create an enemy from space to facilitate the formation of a world government. You understand the concept that governments really can't exist effectively unless there's an enemy threatening the people. That's what gives the government power. So if they want to break down the sovereignty of nations and have a world government, they can't have an enemy that's on this earth. It's got to be external to the earth. And in my book, I document a reference to this all the way back to 1917, where John Dewey said in 1917 in New York, at a dinner given for Viscount Ishii and the Japanese Imperial delegation, he said, quote, "Someone once told me that the best way to unite all humanity into a one-world government and do away with wars forever would be if we were attacked by some other species from some other planet," unquote. Now, what's strange about that text is that's almost exactly word for word the same statement that Ronald Reagan made in 6 speeches during his administration.
Well, at the United Nations, one of them, wasn't it?
Yes.
At the United Nations, Reagan talked about UFOs being basically the condition that possibly could exist to unite all the nations of the world as one in a common foe. Now, that's fascinating. I didn't know they had given 6 speeches at one time or another. Well, you remember H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds?
H.G. Wells, or Orson Welles, I'm sorry, Orson Welles in the Mercury Theater, 1936, did this radio play called War of the Worlds.
Yeah, Orson Welles.
My research, I've discovered that Orson Welles was a member of the Brotherhood. And this has led me to read a lot of his letters and the things that he's written and his screenplays. And I believe that this airing of War of the Worlds on radio by the Mercury Theater was a test of this theory that an external threat to the Earth would unite mankind and bring them together, and that people would believe it. They wanted to see if it was believable. And, of course, it was, because the next day the stock market took a deep tumble, and during that night, farmers were running around shooting at each other with shotguns looking for these alien invaders. And so that told them that all they needed now, since people would clearly go for it, all they needed now was the technology. Our research shows that Hitler gave them the technology. When we went into Germany after World War II, Hitler's German scientists had already built flying discs. And the Russians, Great Britain, Canada, Australia, and the United States all got pieces of this technology and some of the scientists that went along with it. You'll notice that the first UFO sightings were in 1947 in the northwest portion of the United States and came out of Canada and went back into Canada, exactly where Avro Corporation built a huge city and facilities and had actually published in the newspapers that they were building flying discs. Now, I'm not saying that that's absolutely the answer. I don't know the answer any more than anybody else, but in my book I've published a chapter called The Secret Government, which contains everything up to the point of publishing of my book that was ever known about flying saucers, or has ever leaked out of the government, or has ever been the result of any investigation by what they call ufologists. I call them ufologists because they're fooling people more than they're enlightening them.
You know, Whitley Strieber wrote a book. I don't know if you remember that a few years ago, Communion, that was a #1 New York Times bestseller. And I read that book very carefully, and of course, he's being a thriller, sort of a horror genre type of writer. Strieber did a fantastic job. Some say it's a work of fiction. He claims it was nonfiction and passed a lie detector test and so forth. One of the things, Bill, that struck me about that book as I read it, and by the way, I reviewed that book in my own book, Mystery Mark of the New Age, because one of the things that Strieber said had happened to him is he was given a mark on his hand or his arm. And it was 3 triangles. He also said that he encountered a female alien, one of these grays, but it was like a female, with almond-shaped eyes. And he said the only thing that he could imagine from his lifetime of study of, listen to this now, Babylonian religion and such, and the occult, was that this was, to him, he got the impression this was Ishtar, the great goddess of Babylon. The ritual that they put him through was a sexual ritual. It was conducted in a round room. He said basically that the flying saucer, if you want to call it, wasn't a saucer shape. It was this UFO craft was pyramid-shaped, and it appeared to be a pyramid-shaped crystal. So you've got the crystal and the pyramid and the mark, the ancient goddess of Babylon, and her sexual favored rituals. You've got the mark given, which is the triangle, the sign of the unholy gods and goddesses of, the unholy trinity of ancient Babylon, Greece, Rome, and so forth. But it led me to suspect that there is the possibility also of demonic apparitions. If Strieber told the truth, all of these things would appear to be part of a religious significance. Have you ever considered the possibility of demonic apparitions here?
Well, I considered it for a time, especially since all of this comes out of the mysteries, everything. Remember, Lilith used to come and have intercourse with men in their beds.
Oh yes.
In ancient times, and you'll also there are drawings of them that are exactly the same as what you see these people describing, and they were called the Hyksos. And in the mystery religions, some of these priests of the religion of ancient Babylon, of the modern mysteries, believed the Hyksos were the perfect race who came and mated with the daughters of men and created the gods, on earth, and on it goes. And then I began to investigate who are the people that are bringing all these stories out, and how come nobody else sees these people being abducted and everything. And I began to find out that these people all belong to the same secret societies. They're all Freemasons.
Wow.
Rose Cross, Knights Templar, Knights of Malta, without exception. And what really intrigued me about Strieber was in his book, Majestic. In there, he published some documents which I had actually seen as top secret, classified documents in the Navy. And I have no idea how he could have gotten his hands on those documents unless they were intentionally leaked. But why would they leak the exact same documents that I saw unless they expected me to stand up and corroborate his book, which I know that there are no leaks from the intelligence community. If there's a leak, it's done intentionally to manipulate populations or governments.
Have you noticed something that's going on, Bill? This is on sort of the same line, not specifically on UFOs, but I have noticed that there has been a flood recently of leaks. There was an expose on PBS, Frontline organization, which seems to almost have a direct conduit to the CIA. In fact, I think it's really CIA financed. But they had an expose of J. Edgar Hoover. Then they had another expose of James Jesus Angleton, the former deputy director of the CIA. But they, on this expose of Angleton, they paraded and had a number of interviews with former CIA directors, from Colby to, I can't even remember all the guys, the Admiral, and such, but all of them appeared not to be too happy to be interviewed, but they were interviewed, and this seemed to be unprecedented. All of these things are suddenly coming at us like they want you to know what they did.
Well, what they want you to know is what they want you to think that they did. Don't believe for 1 minute that these people are telling us the truth. Their art is deception. That's what they're trained in their whole careers, is to deceive. So whatever they're doing is to bend our consciousness in a direction which they want us to go. And if you listen to all this stuff and really pay attention to it, what they're doing is destroying our traditions,
yes,
our heroes,
yes,
destroying our culture.
Absolutely.
Giving us
absolutely
security. They're telling us that the United States really isn't anything that we thought it was. They're telling us that our government, our constitutional government, doesn't work. They're making us open the door to something else.
Boy, Bill, I tell you what,
something else is going to be the one world government, which is going to promise to save us from all of this stuff.
Bill, we've run out of time here, and I'll tell you what, leaving on that note, we're going to have to do another program on this very soon, because that's an astonishing thing, but I think you're absolutely on target. Friends, the book is Behold the Pale Horse. The author is William Cooper. You can get the book by sending your love gift of $30 to P.O. Box 1420, Show Low, Arizona, 85901, or you can call here in the U.S., 602-333-5174. Bill, it's been my pleasure to have you on World of Prophecy. I hope you'll come back again.
Well, thank you, Tex. I certainly will anytime you ask me, and I'd like to return the favor and get you on my show sometime again in the future, too. You know, that was one of the most popular shows that I did, so keep that in mind. And
well, I sure will, Bill. I'd be delighted. Well, friends, Bill Cooper and Tex Mars want to thank you for listening to this program. Each Sunday night here on WWCR, you can listen to World of Prophecy, 7435 megahertz. So friends, tune in and discover a world of prophecy.
You've been listening to World of Prophecy with your host, Tex Mars.